Gotcha. Hello everyone, and welcome to another Monster Hunter World Iceborne video. This is Thegameconomist, and today we're going to be talking about 10 things you didn't know about Iceborne. So this is going to be my new series, where I'm going to be picking my favorite tips of the week, compiling them into a top 10 list, and sharing them with you. I play this game all the time, you guys know that. I'm always live streaming it, and I'm always running into people who share a little bit of advice, or maybe I've tried something out that I've never tried before, and I gain some perspective on it, right? And the problem is, the way I run into this information is so random. It's usually not enough to make a whole video around this one bit of information, right? So this is a fun way to get all the information in a much more meaningful, maybe a larger video, and I really was wanting to make a video series like this for a while. I just haven't gotten around to it, and I'm finally getting around to it. So welcome to the first episode of the series. I hope you'll enjoy it. The one thing I really want to know is if you learned something new. Some of the information I throw in here might even be slightly older information that I think is actually very important, or maybe it's obvious information that I think is very important, because, you know, there's people who play all day, and typically they're going to know probably everything on this list. See, I'm curious if you know all the things on the list. That's probably going to be harder to accomplish. And then there's people who have probably more of your average lifestyle, where they got school, they got babies, they got work, right? They got to go buy Monster Energy drink. So there'll be a mix of tips in here, and I'm always wanting to make these videos better, so let me know how it worked for you. Let's get started with number 1. Did you know you can actually lose some of your reserve ammo when you're crafting ammo, right? So this was a really interesting one for me. Basically, with something like sticky ammo, when you're crafting it, it crafts 2 at a time. You also have the option to craft all, right? That's the new thing in Iceborne. The problem is, you could have a situation where you only need to craft 1 more sticky ammo, but the game by default always crafts 2 sticky ammo. So what happens to the extra one when you craft it? It just disappears, it's gone. So when you go to craft sticky ammo, make sure there is always a need to craft at least 2 of them, right? So if you can hold 9 shots at a time, and you shoot 1 shot, so now you've got 8 shots left, don't craft it yet. Wait till you have 7 shots gone. And this problem is going to be really consistent for the craft all option. If you use the craft all option, you're always going to be missing out on at least one of those crafts. So if that's not a big problem to you, fine. But if you're really trying to get every little bit of your ammo reserves, you'll be careful with that. Now, different ammo types like cluster bombs and wyvern ammo, those always craft 1 at a time. You don't even have to think about it for those. But, you know, there's other ammo types like thunder ammo will craft 12 at a time. So imagine you shoot 5 shots of your thunder ammo, and then you use your radio menu to craft more thunder ammo. You can make a whole bunch of your ammo get wasted this way. So that was new for me. I didn't notice that before. Same with paralysis ammo. So paralysis ammo is not as big as like 12 at a time, but it's also 2 at a time. So similarly, you have to make sure you actually have a need for 2 shots of paralysis ammo to be added to your inventory before you go to craft it, or you're going to waste your paralysis ammo reserves. So be really careful with that. Number 2 on the list, did you know that you can use your claw attacks in order to soften a monster? So what am I talking about here? When you use the clutch claw and you grab onto a monster, you have 2 options, weapon attack, claw attack. Now you're probably familiar with the claw attack for being able to turn the monster and flinch shot a monster into a wall. Did you know if you continuously claw attack the monster, eventually their hide softens? I didn't know that one. Yeah, so on Nargacuga, I had to smack him 5 times with the claw, and then his head softened after 5 shots. The other thing you could do, and this is probably a little more helpful, is you can claw the monster 3 times in a row, and then use your weapon attack on weapons like a light bowgun, on a gun lance, on dual blades, on the bow, weapons that require usually 2 weapon attacks to soften the hide. You can get 3 claw attacks in, and then you can go for the weapon attack for the soften. Tip number 3 is a bit more obvious. However, I feel like because of the way Monster Hunter Iceborne is feeling, I really want to make sure more people know about this. Did you know you can actually grow dung pods in your garden in Iceborne? That's right. We don't know why dung pod grows in your garden. We're guessing he puts a bucket out and everyone in Celiana kind of takes a doo-doo as they walk by. But it's really useful now because I find more than ever before, monsters are constantly fighting each other. And what this means is they run into each other and they roar and they roar and they roar. You spend your whole fight roar stunned. It's really annoying. So as soon as you run into Devil Joe, you can start shooting poop everywhere, and this will make the monsters split up. So I really like dunk pods. I recommend dunk pods on all your item loadouts now because of this. Okay, so dunk pods can be grown in the garden. You don't have to trade for them at the Elder Melder anymore. This means you can use more of your materials to trade with the Elder Melder for dash juice instead. Here's something I recently learned. It's a small thing, but actually I found it really nice. You can now speed up how fast your camera turns to the left or the right. So I play with bowguns a lot, and that means when a monster jumps behind me, I have to turn all the way around in order to shoot him. Well, with your camera sped up, you can turn faster. Wow, it's amazing. So go ahead and take a look at that. I think that speeding that up at least a little bit is actually going to be ideal for regular gameplay. Alternatively, you can click down on your joystick to lock onto the monster, and this will flip your camera over to the monster. But I'm not a big fan of this method. Is anyone a big fan of that method? I think I've seen some speedrunners use it, but I wasn't so big of a fan, and I've always been aware of it. So it's not a case that I don't use it out of a lack of awareness, I just don't like it. Number 5 on the list, many of you already know this one, but it's so important it has to be said again. So a lot of Iceborne is actually grinding for materials in the guiding lands. What you do is you attack the monster, you break the monster parts, you deal damage, you put them in traps, right? Well, while you're fighting the monster drops all these materials. Here's the tip. When you have one level of geologist in your loadout, your build, you're able to gather from those drops twice, effectively doubling your rewards in the guiding lands. So you should never leave the guiding lands without a geologist decoration in your build. If you don't have any geologist decorations, go craft this Shamos helmet. Number 6. This was an interesting one. So my viewers during a live stream were trying to explain this one to me, and I just couldn't figure out what they were talking about, but I eventually did get it. So when you're looking at weapons at the smithy, often what you want to do at the smithy is compare two weapons. Let's say the two weapons you want to compare, neither of them are weapons you own, so they're both weapons you would like to craft, but you can't make up your mind which one to craft. There is a way to get them comparable to each other where the screens are right next to each other, right? When you're holding onto a weapon, you can immediately compare it to a weapon inside of the weapon crafting menu or the list, right? You can actually compare them side by side. But what if it's two weapons and you don't own one? How do you do that? Well, it's simple. Scroll over to the weapon you want to see and then choose to preview it. See, I always thought preview was just to see how it looked on your body, right? But actually, when you're previewing a weapon that way, you can scroll over to another weapon in the list, and these two weapons will be the ones that get compared. Pretty clever. Now you can compare two weapons without having crafted either one of them. This is extremely useful if you have one weapon at the top of the weapon tree list and another weapon at the bottom of the weapon tree list. Number 7. Some mantles last so long that you can essentially use them as extra decoration slots. What I'm saying is you can treat them almost like another piece of armor. For example, consider the glider mantle. It lasts for 180 seconds and has a fairly short recharge time of 120 seconds. Look what it offers. 2 giant decoration slots. Now just think about what that really means. That means you could put in the glider mantle 4 levels of agitator, right? There's a giant agitator decoration that gives you 2 levels of agitator. So you could put 2 of those in the glider mantle, and that would be 4 levels of agitator. That's a lot of agitator for one mantle. So in the future, you might reach a point where you decide, maybe I don't need the temporal mantle for this fight. I just want to do more damage. And then you add agitator 4 to your build using the glider mantle. Number 8. Speaking of agitator, agitator has become one of the best skills in Monster Hunter World. Why is that? That's because we still have Master's Touch in the game. We still have Crit Boost 3 in the game giving a lot of our damage, as well as the Purple Sharpness, which is pairing with Master's Touch, and all of those are contingent on having very high affinity. And then we have the nerf to weakness exploit, we have the nerf to max might. So on top of all that, we also have monsters spending most of their time enraged, because you can flinch shot them into a wall, or you could claw them, and when you do this, this causes the monster to enrage sooner. So you can spend most of the match with Agitator activated, and thus giving you a boost both to your attack and to your affinity. Number 9 is a very easy one, but it's also one worth repeating for new players. Each week, you can play the Steamworks to get 1 guaranteed Celestial Print, and Celestial Prints are like the Gold Wyverian print. You use them to craft a mantle that you want. So the mantles, they're like the gems of Iceborne, right? They're the rarest material that you can get to drop from a monster, so we like to have Celestial Prints. You can get more of them if you keep playing, but they're going to be pretty rare drops, pretty infrequent. And finally, in number 10, we have one you might have already known. I think, again, a lot of the experienced players probably already know this one, but it's worth repeating. There's a new food skill called Feline Safeguard. Feline Safeguard is really uncomplicated. It's basically feline insurance. It's the same thing, except it's got a different name, and you can eat for it to make sure that you always have it. So if you have a quest where there's only one feint allowed, go and eat for Feline Safeguard. Use a voucher, use a gourmet meal voucher, whichever one you need to use, and eat for Feline Safeguard. Now that assumes you have enough ingredients to eat Feline Safeguard. This is one of the number 1 reasons why it's a good idea to play in a loaded session, a session full of 16 people. Because when 16 people are in the session, you all share your ingredients, meaning if there's an ingredient you're missing, somebody else can fill that ingredient out for you. So when you go to eat a meal and you're in a group of 16 people, it's very much the case that you'll probably have all the ingredients you need to eat for Feline Safeguard. All right, and if you're looking for more people to play with, people to set up sessions with, you can consider joining my LFG Discord, and you can ask people to join you, or you can just see who's playing and just join them. All right. And that's the end of the episode. 10 things you didn't know about Iceborne. How many of those things on the list did you know? How many of them did you not know? Did you know all of them? I'd like to say thank you to all of my Patreon patrons out there supporting my channel, supporting the dream. Thank you very much, everyone. And I want to thank all of you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.